Hi everybody, this is Coffee with Lorelei number 10, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining me, and I want to say that I am not a brain retraining coach. I'm not a certified clinical counselor. Um, these videos are just about things that I've learned and tips that have helped me on my journey, and I want to share them with you in the hopes that they might be helpful to you too. If and it is completely fine if it doesn't resonate with you. Um, Leave what you find is useful, and take take what you find is useful, and leave the rest. So I just wanted to So I've sort of been saving up questions, comments, and sort of my own aha moments. And I really am a lifelong brain retrainer. I've there's always something to learn. There's always something to um, evolve towards, and I'm continuing to learn. I'm grateful for that, and I'm continuing to learn from all of you. So I thank you for your comments and suggestions and questions. Um, some questions that are sort of bits and pieces here and there, so they're not a common theme here. So with regards to counseling, for myself, I do find clinical counseling helpful. Not everybody does, and I certainly don't. I adhere to the brain retraining principles of not doing sort of any clinical counseling work in the first 6 months, because you really want to get your body and brain into a parasympathetic rest, heal, digest state. And if you're looking at core beliefs and negative core beliefs and starting to sort of figure out how did you get here, that is not in most people's training zones or comfort levels in the first 6 months, because you really need to start doing your visualizations, doing your meditations, and re-engaging with joy, laughter, and making your body feel safe, making you feel safe, that it is time to dampen that fear, stress, fight, flight response and go into the rest, heal, digest response, and put yourself in happy places, think of happy things, etc., because you need your body to start healing, to take away some of those uncomfortable sensations and what they call its. However, as you progress in your journey, um, you know, most brain retrainers I find start having to actually look at their core beliefs. But why do I think this way? Why do I have this negative self-talk about this situation? And you have to start doing some changing of negative core beliefs. And for the people who don't have funding for clinical counseling, I really like the Meaning of Life TV app by Ashok Gupta. He does a lot of meditations, and it was a free program. He is shifting it to a new app called iRise. The iRise app, I believe it's $12.95 US a month. So the Meaning of Life is still there. It's embedded in the iRise app now, but there is a cost to it. But some of the meditations in there, particularly about the inner child meditations, I find extremely helpful, because really, you know deep down what it is that you need to do. And whether it be, a fellow brain retrainer helping you, a friend, a family, a clinical counselor, a coach, they're just helping you figure out your own answers. And I found that the inner child meditations were really helpful, because they actually let me get quiet enough for me to answer my own questions. So I found that super helpful. So I'll leave a link in the video description. And I'm going to go on to a note about how I said in coffee number 9 that recovery does not mean you're going to have bliss, which I thought I was going to get because and how life is not going to be perfect, but it sure is beautiful, and the appreciation of all the imperfections and the rain showers, and how we can learn compassion towards ourselves and learn compassion towards others. Now, my mother just has turned 82, and she's going through some rain showers. She's never been 82 before. She has some loss of function, some loss of joint function, some loss of friends, and loss of my father. He passed away 5 years ago now. And, she's, her friends are perhaps moving away to care homes, so she can't see them. And she's still independent enough to be living by herself. But she's going through lots of emotions because she's never been 82 before. And I think that perspective really helped me think, well, I've never been 56 before, and I've never gone through this, and to have some self-compassion, but also to embrace the journey and accept the journey, that it is all for us. And yeah. And another thing that I've learned is, I think I mentioned in my last video, I've been going through some knee issues, and I was downplaying it and saying, I'm not what I was, 5 years ago. I'm not in bed 23 hours a day, and it's just a little old knee issue, and I was judging it, and I was judging myself. And I was doing the suck it up, buttercup, or, buck up, sissy pants. It's just a knee problem. And, it's not like I'm in a third world country with lack of food and water, and I'm not, homeless, and blah, 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 blah. And I was judging myself for, how much compassion I deserve. And my counselor caught me on it, and she said, well, Lorelei, there's actually enough compassion and empathy to go around. There's enough compassion and empathy for everyone and everything. You don't have to withhold it. And you having, you love being outside. You love to go outside and bird. You love to go outside and be in the mountains and walk along the lakes and the beaches. This is not a big thing it's not a small thing for you to have your knee give you issues. And so that was something that I went, okay, that's another pathway of the past. That's another pop that I need to work on about, because if you're judging your own issues, then, are you also judging others? And, how much compassion do they deserve? So that was something sort of eye-opening for me. Some people have been asking me how to make choices and for direction, because, okay, I'm this new person, now what? And for me, it all goes back to following your joy and following your heart, and the universe, and whatever your spiritual faith is, for me it's God, gifted me with all these things that I love to do. And that's what I'm supposed to do. So, and I'm a very strong believer in that, about following your joy. Because life should be easy. We should follow our joy and our deepest desires, because that's what we were meant to do. Some people, were meant to be foster parents. Some people were meant to be healthcare workers. And some people were meant to be teachers, truck drivers, engineers. Like, we have all been gifted. And so, that's how I live my life. And, bigger decisions about what now? Where do I go now? Does this choice fill my soul with joy? And what is worth doing? What is worth my time? and what is worth doing, even if I should fail. So those are sort of the guidelines that I'm using right now, is really sort of tuning into self-care and self-love as always, but joy, what is worth my time, and what is worth doing, even if I should fail. And sticking to my values and wanting to be, to spread love and joy, because we are love and joy, and to kind of be that vessel of light. So that is that question. And, it's interesting to me that the more people I talk to, the more that they do describe that this journey is a spiritual one, where they're asking the big questions. What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of my life? And being awake and staying awake and saying, I get to feast on my own life. I get to be awake. I get to be grateful for my home, my family, my friends, that raindrop on that leaf, the bird in the tree, my family, my kids, my friends. I get to feast on my own life, and it's this wonderful journey of awakening. So that's that. I have a new practice I'd like to share with you. I have a little I Love You book. It's got a little rose on it. And when I do things that for myself, because I love myself, I write it down. And so I thought that's a new little tool that I've been playing with. Another little tool I've been playing with is in the laughter yoga class that I lead. Somebody was sharing about how swans think, oh, I'm a swan, I'm so beautiful. And so I've been, instead of doing mindful moments on my hourly timer, I think that was an Ashok Gupta recommendation, where we set our phone to every hour on the hour to have a mindful moment and be grateful. I've been sort of interspersing them with swan moments, like, I spy with my little eye something that is so amazing. It's me. Or I spy with my little eye someone who is wonderful. Who could that be? It's me. So just sort of reinforcing that self-care and self-love, and quieting that limbic system down. Okay. Now, so that's all tying up the loose ends and questions and comments. So the rest of this talk is about emotions. And that seems to be the song of my journey in the last few months. It could be that my knee itch is tied to that. It's helping me feel grief and compassion for myself, and noticing emotions and sensations in the body. Because, a lot of us like to stuff our emotions down. I was very good at it, stuffing emotions, suppressing emotions, avoiding emotions, distracting from emotions. And really, emotions are a part of life. They're human. And now there is this book called The Body Keeps the Score. I don't recommend it for anybody who is not fully recovered. It's quite triggering, and even now when I go back to look at it, I find myself triggered. So don't read it. But it has a very good theory about how, if we don't process our emotions and let go of our emotions, our body holds those emotions. And I think that's very akin to Dr. Sarno's work, which I think many people know of, about how we hold emotions and unresolved emotions in our body. And so there is not psychologically or physically healthy to suppress or distract or avoid emotions your whole life. I mean, that's how I got to where I was 23 hours a day with its. So for me, it's been a big learning curve in the last few months to actually start labeling emotions. Now, depending on which cognitive behavior therapy skills book you look at, or which even if you Google emotions, you'll get these lists and categories of what emotions that you could be having. So the CBT skills workbook that I'm using, there's 6 categories of emotions: joy, anger, grief, sadness, shame, and fear. So, and I like to I like to memorize it, because then when I'm noticing myself having emotion, I can actually go, oh, okay, what emotion is that? And I go, okay, is it joy? Is it anger? Is it grief? Is it sadness? Is it shame? Is it fear? And then it helps me kind of get more curious about it after I've labeled it. And then I notice, where do I feel it in the body? Because if you suppress it, you can hold tension in that part of your body. So, do I feel it in my chest? Do I feel it in my face? Do I feel it in my stomach? And apparently Brene Brown has a new book called Atlas of the Heart. I haven't read it yet, but she has this ongoing sort of message. I can't remember which of her previous books that it's been, is that physical pain and emotional pain are felt in the exact same area of your brain. So whether you've had an emotional occurrence, or whether you've sprained an ankle, that amount of pain is received and processed in the same part of your brain. So if you can imagine that, if you've sprained your ankle, how much pain and physical pain that could be, that's comparable to, let's say, loss of a job, or loss of a career. The emotional pain is very significant, and to give yourself as much compassion and space to process that as you would a physical occurrence, a physical happening. So, so my journey has been with my counselor, and for those people who don't have counseling, this is just some insight. There's lots of books out there. I will try and put a few books in the video description. And the meditations also work for this, about labeling the emotion, and trying to identify the feeling in our bodies, and Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor's work about how emotions, if you let yourself feel them, they come like a wave, and they'll come in and out of your body in about 90 seconds, and that you can just let it come and let it go, instead of storing it or suppressing it or distracting or avoiding. Okay, so being able to sit with uncomfortable emotions, and realizing that no emotions are dangerous, and not to judge them. And sometimes uncomfortable emotions can be there for a reason. For example, anger can be because your boundaries were crossed, and that you need to get a little bit angry and reinforce those boundaries, or somebody else's boundaries were crossed and they can't stand up for themselves, so that emotion motivates you to help stand up for those people. So so emotions are just there, and I used to judge them and not feel them, but to get curious about the emotions. And sometimes the emotions might not be valid to the present moment, and sometimes emotions can be colored by perceptions. And so to get curious about them, to see if those emotions are valid to this moment, or whether they're remembering a past injury, or forecasting a perceived, imagined unfortunate happening that might happen. So and sometimes the limbic perspective can generate invalid emotions. Like if, let's say, my husband was tired, and he was not really listening to me, and I get all angry. Well, it's because he loves me. He's just tired, and my limbic perspective made me feel those emotions. So it's a lot to do with getting curious about them, letting them flow, and trying to be curious about them, about where those emotions are coming from. Okay, so and releasing the emotions has been sort of my journey right now. Of I'm I'm learning. I love to dance my emotions out, and I love to. I've been drawing and painting my emotions out, and writing. Writing is a great release of just writing down, what I'm feeling, and just let it fly, just get it out, and then taking a step back and being curious, and withholding judgment, and trying to be compassionate and curious about what's going on. So, and I think the two more quick things that I want to talk about is I'm a bit of a butterfly when it comes to my emotions and other people's emotions. I'm very empathic, and Chas Smith talks on her podcast about happy sensitive versus highly sensitive. So I'm certainly highly sensitive, and learning the tools to be happy sensitive. And for myself, it's just giving myself the acceptance that I feel a lot. When people are really happy about something, I get that happy, and it's such a gift. But when people get upset, and they're expressing a lot of grief or shame or whatever, I can feel it too, and to give myself compassion and some space to process those emotions, shield myself from those emotions, and process, and trying to figure out what's mine and what's not mine, and not being over responsible. I mean, there's a lot of things there, but yeah, for me, it's been a lot of self-acceptance and giving myself a lot more space, to be, a lot more space for compassion, a lot more space for self-love, and a lot more space for processing. And yeah, and emotions, they're funny, I'm learning the capacity to learn to being able to hold so many emotions at the same time, like to be able to hold joy and sadness and grief and gratitude, because they sort of, I guess my counselor was trying to explain this to me. It was just the anniversary of my father's passing. He passed away 5 years ago. He was 89. He had a lovely life. He had a great life. And to numb the grief and the pain of losing him, I wasn't letting myself remember him. And I wasn't letting myself remember how much I loved him. And so my counselor said to me, "Well, Lorelei, do you still love your father?" And I said, "Of course." Well, she said, "Then you're going to still grieve him because he's not here." And I went, "Oh, okay." I totally get that. So I numbed the grief, but then I also numbed the joy. And so I'm really learning on how to hold everything at once. Joy and sadness and grief and gratitude. And so this is, I guess, my new journey right now, about learning about more and more about emotions. And distraction is okay if you realize that you're distracting for a reason and that you're going to process later. But to continually distract and avoid emotions, I think physically and mentally it's not the best thing. And so let's say if you are ruminating and you're looping about something and you're constantly going back to, a certain thing that happened, then that's not productive. because your limbic system is so fired up, it's looping and ruminating and thinking the same thing over and over and over again. That is a good time to distract because your limbic system's taken over. But when the emotions have dialed down and you have, more of a prefrontal cortex perspective, you go, okay, it's time to process what's really going on here, And so, so it's been a very interesting journey, and it will continue to be. And I just want to thank you for your time, and thank you for joining me on another Coffee with Lorelei. And just remember, I'm withholding Coffee with Lorelei number 8 until everybody sees the disclaimer saying that, okay, only listen to Coffee number 8 if you think it's in your training zone to listen to discussions about its and symptoms and women's health. Okay? So take care, everybody, and until next time, I wish you peace, love, joy, and laughter. Take care.